Hey, welcome back. I hope you are ready to finish out this page. I'm excited to show you a couple things in Figma and then finally to get to some code where maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable, as do I. Now, what I want to show you, first of all, is how to use Figma plugins. And these will be a big help to you if you're designing stuff out or quickly kind of need to prototype stuff. So I'm going to come up here to the menu bar, and then under plugins, you've got a bunch of different options under manage plugins here. And that's where I grabbed a bunch of these up top, but I'm just going to show you a few of them. So for instance, we've got this lorem ipsum one. Now I can go ahead and click this and it pulls up a little panel here, but I need to actually select some text layers first. So I'm going to grab this right here, and then basically you decide, hey, how many words do you want to generate? Now I can close the plugin afterwards or not, but let's go ahead and just generate it like that and not close it. Now again, because the way we set this up, it's going to require some adjusting here. So let's go ahead and grab these like this. And then now we can adjust this container itself. And this may mean that you want to actually set yours up a little bit differently than the way I set up these text components. That's fine. It's just how I prefer to do it. And then I'd rather adjust it like this because a lot of times I'm happy with it just staying in its little section. All right, so I've got that set. Now let's see. This got some spaced out a little bit weirdly. Let me actually move this header below here. There we go. That way the blur is below the button. Okay, so I've got that set. I also need to come in here and do the same thing. Now that I've got this lorem ipsum thing open, I can just keep it like that. Let's change this to something more like 12 words. Let's see, what other options do I have? Sentences, paragraphs. Let's leave it like that. And I'll grab those. Same here. And maybe I'll do like 15 words here and generate that. And here I might do, I don't know, 12 again. And by making these a little bit different, it actually gives you a more realistic view of how things will work. Now you'll notice there I tried to drag it and it didn't work, and that's because I've got all these things in nested auto layouts. So I need to make sure I'm grabbing the right frame. Let's see, so this section here, and then I should be able to adjust that, and I'm not. And so that can be, again, kind of frustrating when you're working with these things. But all that means is that it's being controlled by the parent. Just like Flexbox uses a parent container and then adjusts the children accordingly. So I can come in here and now just adjust this like this and space them out, and everything should space out as I'd like it to be. So I've got that set, and that's one option for using like lorem ipsum text or whatever. And there's, I think, like bacon ipsum and all the other ones if you'd rather use something like that. For now, I'm going to leave the rest of that alone. Eventually, I'd change this text to reflect whatever, but since it's a fake client, I don't even know what we would say about them. Whatever I put on the site, I don't even remember, but we'll get around to that. Now, there are other plugins, and you can also access them apart from the menu by hitting Command P. And then you can just search menus, plugins, whatever. So I know I've got one on icons. So I've got a couple of different ones, and the first one I'm going to show you is called Feather Icons. So I'm going to grab that. And it opens all these up, and these are just open source icons. You can grab them off feathericons.com, and we're actually going to access this with different tooling when we get around to coding. But this means I can search for stuff like code or whatever, and then just grab this and drop it right into my document. Now you'll notice it just set it right here, and let me go ahead and expand it out a little bit so you can see it. And I've got my selection colors over here, and I can just change this to whatever I want it to be, so like a white color. And then if I actually get inside and select the vectors, here I can even adjust the width of those vectors as well. Now one thing that can be kind of confusing is you'll notice that this put this inside of a frame. And so again, the frame is going to kind of control how everything is stacked up within it. And then if I want to adjust the vectors themselves, I've got to select them again and adjust them that way. The other thing that could be confusing is because it's in a frame, it's actually outside of our desktop frame, even though it's sitting in the page, kind of on top of where that might be. Where I want it to be is inside this cards, and even there I want it to be inside here, and then I want it to be, let's see, I guess right inside here, this ellipsis. So let me go ahead and drag this down, and I'm going to drag it down next to this ellipsis, and you can see it's trying to kind of figure out where to stack it in there. And once I do that, it just drops it and adds it to that frame, and you see it stacked up there. Now what I'm going to do is actually grab both of these and hit Command G, and that groups them and allows me to move it around freely wherever I'd like to. Now it's behind it, but all that means is that I need this ellipsis to go underneath that frame. All right, and now it's in the middle. Oops, and if I hit Command and zoom in, I can adjust that exactly where I want it to be. You could also grab both of these and then just put a middle and middle like that, and that will stack them exactly in the middle. So I might add icons to all of those because we're going to be changing them anyhow later on in the code. We're going to leave that alone. That probably needs a little more padding around it, but you get the idea. That's how to use that plugin. Now we've got some other plugins as well. And if I come in here, actually, let's first of all do these arrows because I think that's Feather Icons as well. So I've got that already kind of pre-selected, and we'll do something like arrow. I don't see the one I want, so maybe it was like carrot. Nope, let's do left. Hey, there we go. What was this called? Chevron left. All right, that'll work. I'm going to come over here and let's just adjust this color again. And I can pull this up. And since I double clicked it, I added two of them. So we can get rid of one of those. I'm going to grab this one and let's make this just slightly bigger. And then I'm going to add this over next to this testimonial, that frame, and this ellipsis. Okay, so let's move this one right here, down here. And then I'm actually just going to get rid of this altogether. I don't need that one anymore. Now that means I can come over here and say right and do the same thing here. And I'll do that and be right back with you. Now, as I'm dragging this in, you're going to notice here that it's actually giving me little indications of where it's going to land inside of these little auto layouts. So I'm going to drop it there, and again, just delete that one, and now everything fits together. I don't think I've got any other icons that I can think of offhand. I think maybe down below, but we can open that up again when we need it. What I'm going to do now is select this circle right here, and I'm going to use another one that's called the UI Faces. So UI Faces right here. And this basically grabs from a bunch of image galleries, some of which are free to use, like Unsplash and Pexels, and then I can actually limit by like male or female or age groups or hair color or emotion or whatever, but I can just click Apply Avatar, and it's going to add some random one here. So here's a random guy, John Doe. And you can see it just adds it inside whatever frame I've selected, just kind of like the text lorem ipsum one works as well. Now that I've got that set, let's close that out, and we're going to build out the next little section, which is our pricing area. Now once again, I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift-I, and grab my text and then hit enter, and that just drops it right in there. I actually want this one to be my 3XL. Text works fine there. And let's come in here. And this is going to say a price for everyone. I'll drag this over. And then just below it, let's copy and paste this thing down. I'm going to change this. And this will be my medium, and I want this to be a muted color. And once I've got that text selected, I'm going to add 3 tiers to meet your needs. And then I'll go ahead and add that to the middle here. We're going to have to adjust that in a second. Let's grab both of these and hit Shift-A. You know the drill. That's an auto layout. Put it right here in the middle, and we'll put this at something like 20. And again, you'd probably want to do kind of more precise spacing on all this, but right now I'm just eyeballing it since this is kind of the initial mock-up is kind of how we're treating this. Now, in our final design, I've got 3 boxes down here, these sections right here. And instead of coloring all of these perfectly, or adding text to all these, we're going to worry about the colors and kind of leave the text themselves to actual coding, where we'll change out the text just so you don't have to watch me type out text for all of that. So let's go ahead and work on this left one, and then we'll kind of extrapolate out and move those over here and add these extra ones as well. So we've got a section, this little pill, all this kind of stuff. I'm going to hit the R key, or I could come up here and click on the rectangle and just drag out a little rectangle here. And for right now, I don't want to fill. I do want to stroke, and I want it to be this color. And we'll just leave it at 1 pixel for now. That works. And then inside here, actually, you know what? Let's not do that. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to delete that, and we're going to use an auto layout and actually apply a stroke to the auto layout. So we're not adding a bunch of extra things we don't need. And I'm pretty sure that will work. Let me go ahead and just copy this out and pull it out just so I don't have to reselect stuff. And come in here. Let's make this 2 and then text. And then here, I'm going to say $1,000. Copy this down again, and down in here, you'll notice I don't actually have access to any of those variables. And if I look over on the left, you'll see what I did was I copied out the text box rather than the component. So that's a danger. All right, so let's copy and paste that, and now drag this down, and now I should have access over here. We're going to make this extra small. Now I need to zoom in so you can actually see anything over here. And here, let's see, I do want this to be a little bit different than any of the ones I set up. I actually want this text color to be by dark. But before I do that, let's go ahead and add the text, which is going to say starter plan in all caps. And then what I want to do is actually add a background to it. So first of all, let's go ahead and add some padding. Remember, it's in a little auto layout. So let's do something like that. And then let's add a fill to the background. And I just want this to be that color, I think. And then let's now change the text. Let's see, where's my text? Right here to this dark color. And then I'm going to go ahead and just drag this, click and drag until it makes a little pill shape. Keep going. Okay, something like that. Maybe a little bit more spacing. Actually, let's just do spacing on the top. So like 2, then 10, 2, and 10. And that should work. All right, so now we've got a little pill shape that is based off of our text, but obviously it's changed quite a bit from what it used to be. I'm going to grab this component and copy it down. And here we're going to change this to our medium. And this will be muted. And I'll paste in here landing page to maximize conversion rate, which I had on my clipboard. That's the next little section. In fact, for here, I do actually want to change this text color to like a purple color, which will mirror the button that we're going to have in a second. Now I'm going to hit Command P and go ahead and pull back up my feather icons. We're going to search for a check, and this is what we're grabbing right here. And let's go ahead and grab, let's see, over here, this check circle. I'm going to change this coloring, and we want this to be muted like that. And let's see, I'm going to move this over here. We're going to add some text next to it. So let me copy this down. I've selected the text itself. Let's grab the component, and I'll come over here and change this to small. And I want this to be, let's see, my text color as well. And I'm going to add the first of many little check boxes here. So let's go ahead and grab both of these combined, and I'm grabbing the vector. I actually want to grab the frame. So let's grab that frame, and then right there, that text box. And then I'm going to hit Shift A to make those an auto layout. Now, you'll remember I need to come back over here and kind of adjust how these things space out. Let's set this to something like 20. And then because one of the frames was outside of the master frame, the desktop itself, it pulled them both out. So let's grab these down here. And then for right now, I'm going to grab this and just copy it down a bunch of times holding the Option key down. Let's do something like, I don't know, 5. I don't exactly remember how many I had. Grab all of these and then make these an auto layout. So we've got these stacked in here as well. And then let's go ahead. I'm going to update the text to reflect what we're going to have on our site eventually for at least one of the cards. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back with you. All right, not too long. We got all those set. Now we've got a button down here. So if I hit Shift I can pull up my button, or I can go to the Assets panel over here too. That works. And here I want this to say something like learn more. All right. Now, automatically, since I was already in a frame, it just added this to the middle of that frame. So let me drag that out. And now it's outside of that. Let's put it down here. And I've got one more text box. So let's grab this, copy it down. And I'm going to paste in this text here and change this from medium to small. Now, I probably should have done that first because now I have to reselect it and paste that back in. Okay, so I've got all those set up. And let's see, I want to change this from accent to muted. And I think the rest of that should work. Maybe this is a little bit too large. Let's change this to small. Let me copy this out first. Some of those things are a little frustrating that you have to like copy and paste them or whatever, but I'd rather have that than having to look up text sizes everywhere. To me, that's the ultimate futility. So why don't we just not worry about that? All right, now I do need to change this back to that purple color. All right, so let's grab all of this combined, and then one more time, hit Shift A, make it an auto layout, grab all these and put them in the center. Now, some of this I may want to adjust a little bit, but like I mentioned earlier, let's go ahead and just add the padding directly on here. And maybe this needs to be more like 40 and then like 35. And I think you can actually click in here and type 40 and 35, maybe. Yeah, and I think it actually sets it to that. You can also do that. But now that I've got all that, I can add the stroke directly on here like this, and we'll just do 1 pixel. All right, and that might be a little bit too much. So let's go back here and say like 30 and, oh, that did 30 for everything. Let's see, 30, comma, 25. And that spaces those out. So I've got that there, and then let's just go ahead and duplicate this a couple times. And that's a little bit too large for kind of the size I've got here. So there's a couple things we can do, but let's go ahead and just grab the entire desktop frame and make that a little bit larger. I think that'll be the quickest. And then I'm going to grab all of this and just move it to the center. And then zoom back in here. And the only thing we need to do is change this one to be slightly bigger. So we'll say like 45 up top and 25 on the side still, maybe even bigger than that. Let's say like 60 and 25. And then that spaces that stuff out. We'll add it like that. And then for each of these, let's go ahead and add a background as well. So a fill color of this dark color makes them stand out. And this one, if I hit Command and then the right bracket, it brings it to the front. You can also right click and see that, bring it to the front there. And that way it stands over the rest of those. And I can change this out and change the border color to this pink color. And then I'll also probably increase the size. I also need to come in here and we're going to change this color here to our gradient. And we would obviously adjust the sizing for this. So like we'd make this bold or whatever. And I also need one more pill up top here. So I'm going to grab this and copy it and paste it. And this one, I actually want the background color to be my gradient as well. And then the text color to be white. And then I'm going to just grab this and bring it down. Now, as I add it, get it close to it, you see it tries to snap into that auto layout. So one thing you can do is just get it close and then arrow down to get it exactly where you want. And that prevents it from kind of snapping into place. Okay, so now that I've got all these set, let's actually group this. And by doing a group, it's not going to do any kind of auto layout stuff, so it won't change where I place those things. But now that I've got all three of these, now I am going to go ahead and just group these as well so it doesn't adjust their layout. Now both this and this are going to be combined one more time with an auto layout, and I'll move these back to the middle. We'll put this at like 100, something like that, and this will be kind of its own section, and we'll call this pricing. And I do actually have a little blur behind that as well, so I'm going to copy this out and try to add it in if it'll let me. And it did let me, but it put it all the way, let's see, where did it put it? Somewhere. Here we go, up top. So what I want is for it to be inside here, and I want it to be part of this group. There we go, I moved it over, and now I can pull it back behind all that, get it close, and then I'll arrow up exactly to where I need it to be. All right, and then I'm going to space it out just a little bit more. Okay, cool. So we've got all that. Now that it's taking up a little bit more room that I want, I can actually reduce this probably to nearly 0. Yeah, and that's spaced out a little bit better. Okay, so we've got most of the sections done. If I move back here, the final section is this happy clients, and this tells your story and the footer. So we're almost there. Let's go ahead and obviously there's some color things we didn't finish on the design here, but we'll get to this in the coding. The important thing is just understanding how to lay stuff out, and I don't want to make unimportant things the important thing. Let me show you one other plugin here for Figma, and this one, if I hit Command P again, and I just type icon, it's called Simple Icons. And all of these are plugins that I installed, like I showed you a second ago. Now these are just popular brands for all kinds of things, so I just randomly grab stuff. So like Fiat, I think I grabbed that, and I don't even know. Let's just grab random ones here, and whatever, sure, and sure. Okay, so we've got a bunch of things, and if I come over here, they're all stacked up right here on top of each other. So let's bring these down, and I'm going to scroll down here. Well, you're going to set them down this way. Let's go ahead and grab all of them, and we're going to change them to our text color. Actually, maybe I think they were this muted. No, I think like a purple color is what I had them. And then now they're all just stacked right there on top of each other, but the beauty of auto layout is if I grab all of those and just hit auto layout, it stacks them out automatically. Now it's guessing that I want it top to bottom, which is not true. I want it right to left, and then I do want to space them out a good bit as well. The other thing I want to do is come in here and let's grab each of the frames by hitting Command and then clicking. I want to make them all a good deal bigger, so something like that. And then that frame should adjust automatically to fit it. So I've got all those set in there, and now I just need to grab some text, and I think that was called like happy clients or something like that. Now, seeing as I don't even know who any of these people are, they're not my clients, but you know, it's for the channel. Okay, so we've got all this spaced out here, 3XL. What do we, I think maybe I had this at like 2XL, something like this. And then this was happy clients. And we can adjust some of this typing when we get to the code and kind of figure out exactly what we want this to be like. One more auto layout with Shift A, space those all like that. All right, now the last section is very much like this header section. So I'm actually going to just copy, actually let's go ahead first of all and make sure that we named all this. Happy clients, did we name this? No. So let's call this clients. And now back up here and let's just grab the header right here and hit Option and drag it, and that will duplicate it. But now I actually need to move it down the page all the way down here. Here's why I need to grab all of this, and I'm going to change this back to bold and then make sure I've got the component selected. And I'm going to move this to 3XL. And this is just let us tell your story. And again, I've just got some random logarithm, and that works for me. All the rest of that is the same though. So we've got that stacked up. Now you can either drag it till it snaps in place, or you can click this center thing and it will snap in place too. All right, so the last section is the footer, and this is a little bit too long, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this up like this. Hit R for rectangle, or you can grab it up here once again and drag this little rectangle out. Here I actually want to change this to the same as my background color. And then I need some text, so let's grab some that we already have here. And I'm going to change this to my extra small once again and zoom way in, which means I probably should have grabbed that no commitment. I mean, that would have saved you several seconds of your life. Either way, I've got my copyright and we're set to go. I'm going to place that right into the center. Oh, and I've got that to where it's not quite working with the text. Here we go. Back into the center. Grab both of these. Seems a little high now. Maybe something like that. And I'm going to put these both in the center. Group those, and I'm going to call this footer. And I've got a little blur that's supposed to be down here. Where was my extra blur? Did I have an extra blur? All right, no extra blur. So let's come back into this pricing. I'm going to go ahead and grab this blur and copy it and paste it out this way. And we're going to drag this in just down below here. And I want this to be below the footer, just like that, so that the footer kind of gets some definition on it. And then I'm going to space this out just a touch, drag it out like this. Now I actually want this contact us to be above all of that though. So in addition to changing this to like CTA or something like that, I'm going to drag this in front of the blur so that it sits over the top of it. All right, we're going to call that basically done. Obviously, there would be a lot of spacing things you need to kind of dial in on your final design, but since I was just kind of trying to show you how to use Figma and how to use auto layouts, especially in some of these plugins, and just how to interact with the UI, I hope this was a big help and that your process was smooth kind of figuring out how this all works. Well, next time is where we start to have fun and actually code this thing out from scratch. We're going to use basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but I've thrown in a couple extra kind of fun tech stack things so that even if you're comfortable with those three, that you'll still get something out of the future videos. Those fun things are Astro Build, the static site generator that's new and technically still in beta, but has a lot of neat features to offer. Also, we're going to be using Adam Argyle's Open Prop system, which is basically a framework that's just CSS variables that you can add, and we're going to use a just-in-time engine so that it only adds the ones we use and a bunch of other fun stuff. So you don't want to miss those videos where we code stuff out, but I will catch you in that next video. Thanks for watching. Happy coding.